Florida set to dramatically expand its Don't Say Gay laws. Here's what they will do. So this one is, I mean, this is a suggestion to extend it, to like expand the provisions.
Yeah, it moves it from third grade to eighth grade.
Mm-hmm. Heavily restricted school discussion about sexual orientation and gender identity until the ninth grade, when most students are 14 or 15, uh, is likely to pass. Okay.
So the ninth grade thing,
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure is just the result of the way the school structure is there,
Mm-hmm.
and in a lot of parts of the country,
So that's when you leave middle school.
elementary
Yeah,
school being K through 5, and then middle school being 6 through 8.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
So basically, they're saying don't teach this stuff in elementary or middle school,
Okay.
and then in high
Um,
school, discussions about sexuality and whatnot are okay.
yeah. Uh, this is what I was worried about. They got their foot in the door, and now they're widening the door, and they're opening the door, and they're moving through the door. They
Um,
suggest, hey, no porn in kindergarten, and we all agree. And that's their foot in the door. And then they start saying, okay, well, no gay characters in books in third grade. And you're like, wow, I mean, I guess, okay. And now they're like, okay, nothing until ninth grade. And then we've given them an inch, and they're taking their mile.
I don't know if that's really what this does, because I linked you the text of the bill,
Mm-hmm. I've got
and
that here, I think.
yeah, I'm thinking after finding certain things that I also linked to you, I'm pretty much okay with a lot of this bill.
Okay. Um,
And again, to preface,
mm-hmm,
as I said
mm-hmm.
last week, I am fully in support of people who are transgender.
I know. I,
If
well,
you want,
yeah.
if you want, especially adults, if you want to take hormones and get surgeries and whatnot,
Okay,
and have people call you by a different name, like totally cool.
great. Is that totally cool for that person to teach third grade?
Well, it depends.
That's what I thought. That's what I'm getting at. That's the situation that I'm seeing with this. Um, I know from a fact my third grade teacher introduced herself on the first day. She said, "Hi, my name is Mrs. Smith." I don't remember what her name is. Um, and I have been married for 9 years, and I have two little boys, and she has photos of her husband and her children on her desk. Now, what does she do with that husband? She has sex with him. How did she get those children? She had sex with this guy.
But kids don't know that.
Okay, but if she does the exact same thing and says, "Hi, my name is Miss Smith. This is my wife, and these are my two children," has she just groomed them?
No,
Okay,
but
I agree that she
should a,
didn't.
should a teacher talk about their personal lives to the kids?
They are going to, and they always have, and they always will. I knew that my third grade teacher had a husband and children. Is she not allowed to talk about them? Is Mrs. Smith allowed to talk about her husband and children? Yes. Is Mrs. Smith allowed to talk about her wife and children? No. Now, why would she be allowed to talk about the first but not the second?
Well,
Because bigotry.
hmm. Well, I would say that okay. If that's your argument, then I would lean towards the argument of applying the rules evenly. Then,
It won't happen.
uh,
It never happens, and
well,
it's not going to happen. That is, we have a long history of that in this country, of creating rules for the minorities that the majority does not have to worry about. If they were applied fairly, I mean, poll taxes and like the old IQ tests that they gave to black people before they were allowed to vote, that kind of stuff, probably in the law said that everybody has to pass this, but they only gave it to the black people, you know? So they're not going to be applied fairly and evenly because the things that are white Christian Republican are acceptable, and the things that aren't that get shut down.
I understand where you're coming from. I also think that the nature of the the introduction and whatnot that you've described
Hmm.
with Mrs. Smith,
Hmm.
um, when applied in other contexts, so uh, for example, if you have a homosexual teacher
Hmm.
or transgender teacher,
Hmm.
raises questions for kids that I think are better discussed with their parents. Uh, I think kids generally understand, you know, they have a mommy and a daddy, right?
Hmm.
Topics of sexuality and gender and whatnot, I think, are better left to the home early on.
Okay.
At what age uh, is certainly up for debate.
Okay.
What I found when I was looking through this bill
Hmm.
is that it's primarily focused on, or at least in a lot of cases, it's focused on informing parents about uh, things that are going on with children,
Okay.
with their children,
Okay.
which is a lot of what the original stop or the original don't say gay law entailed. Um, like if you pull that up on 1320, you'll see that
Hmm.
the stuff that's underlined is what you linked me in the Time article.
Hmm.
But the stuff that's not underlined, it refers to, schools are going to be required. And this is from the previous don't say gay bill. Like schools are required to tell parents about medical or medical concerns and whatnot.
Okay.
Which, if you believe that the child is experiencing gender identity disorder,
Hmm.
that's a medical thing.
I agree. We'll get to that in one sec. But if this photo is sitting on, if this is Mrs. Smith and this photo is sitting on her desk, is that acceptable?
Sure.
Okay. If Mrs. Smith has another woman right here instead of this guy, is that photo still acceptable on her desk?
Yeah, I'd probably say so.
Okay. I don't think the Florida Republicans are going to agree with you. I think they're going to say no to that second question, making a so these people are equal but separate. You know, we we don't like that. They'll be allowed to be teachers as long as they don't have any photos of their same-sex partner on their desk or discuss it with with their students at all. Yet this Mrs. Smith will be allowed to talk about those things. She can mention her children, and she can mention her husband. I was in. It wasn't my teacher, but there was a third grade teacher that was very upset if you ever called her Miss or Mrs. She was Ms. And what is the difference between Miss, Mrs., and Ms.?
One is
Her marital
Southern slang.
status. No, it's her
Um,
marital status. And she was upset with third graders who didn't know the difference and didn't call her Ms. She was she was declaring her marital status to us. Like, is she grooming us? I don't think so. But I also don't think that a woman being in this picture and a woman being right here holding these kids in this white picket fence is also grooming.
well, that's a little weird because I was taught growing up that Miss was the single and then Mrs. was the married.
Ms. is the divorced.
Oh, with a okay.
She was very. Uh,
Shouldn't it just go back to Miss? Once you're
well,
divorced, you're
no,
single
it's
again.
right.
It's Miss.
Well, no, not anymore because now she's not. There's some marital. She's letting you know she used to be married because we need to know that because that's important when
Why?
you're because it's important when you're dealing with the livestock chattel that is women. Um, we need to know
What?
when we're buying them from their father whether or not they've been married before. It's leftover old misogyny is what it is. The difference between Miss, Mrs., and Ms. Um,
She was really adamant about being known as a
she was
divorcee, huh?
very adamant in these third graders knowing that she has had a divorce. Um,
I don't think that should be allowed either. What the fuck?
I know, but it wouldn't have been. And what I'm suggesting is that something like that, because it's a little bit more heteronormative, would be allowed, where things that are not heteronormative are not allowed. We keep them separate. Oh, hi. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button, press the subscribe button. Uh, if you want to tell me how right I am, feel free to leave a comment. If you want to tell me how wrong I am, leave a comment too. That's good. Um, this is just kind of a hobby for me, so I appreciate you coming by, giving it a watch, and pressing the YouTube buttons. Thanks.